अच्छा हॉस्पिटल है, फ्री इलाज है। जैसे मरीज जो भी होएगा SIUT वाला है ना, वो लेगा मरीज। कोरोना के मरीज तो लेगा लाजमी। अलहदा कमरों में अब इनके जो बने हुए हैं, बाकी कोई भी नहीं लेगा। फिर उसके बाद आया था इनके पास, फिर वो 5 दिन वो मेरा वो करते रहे कोरोना के कमरे में ना। उधर मेरा डिलेसी होता ना, मतलब मशीन माई। वहाँ से फारिग हुआ, फिर उन्होंने मुझे बोला आप तक कोरोना ख़त्म, सही हो गया, अब सेट हो गया। जो बाहर बोलते हैं ना, उन तो चाहिए कोरोना से आप मास्क पहने और दस्ताने वगैरह अपना ख्याल रखें। अभी देख लें कितने मरीज़ हो गए हैं। आप तो कोरोना से बचना चाहिए, किसी को हाथ नहीं मिलाना चाहिए, मतलब बेड पे शुरू लोगों को हिफाजत करनी चाहिए, मतलब बंदों से दूर रहें। मतलब आप घर पे जाओ, हाथ धो साबुन से सही तरह, और अलहदा बच्चों से भी थोड़ा अपने ख्याल रखें। और घर ज़्यादा घर पे रहना चाहिए, बाहर नहीं जाना चाहिए, जैसे बाज़ारों में आप जा रहे हैं।
All right, we'll start then. Assalamu alaikum, everyone.
Walaikum
Hello, my name is Maliha Qureshi, and I'm with SIUT North America. Welcome to SIUT and the Expansion of Excellence. The subject of today's session is the fourth wave of COVID and how it's being felt in Pakistan. And how SIUT has been and is managing the various facets of this pandemic within their own patient population. Joining me today is an esteemed panel of experts comprised of SIUT medical professionals, as well as one of SIUT North America's board members. From SIUT. Can you all hear me?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. From SIUT, we have Dr. Fazal Akhtar, Professor of Nephrology, Dr. Mirza Naqi Zafar, Professor of Pathology, Dr. Asma Naseem, Associate Professor of Infectious Diseases, Dr. Fakhir Raza, Associate Professor of Critical Care, and Dr. Sunil Tudani, Associate Professor of Infectious Diseases. Representing SIUT North America is Dr. Barkat Charania, who not only is one of our senior board members, but also one of its founding members. Welcome, doctors, and thank you for taking time out of your very busy schedules to help inform our viewers on the COVID situation at SIUT. Dr. Akhtar, I'd like to begin with you, sir. Latest global COVID numbers are 220 million infected, approximately 4.6 million deaths, and 2 million recoveries. Pakistan has a total cases as of this morning, 1.17 million infected, with an increase of just over 3,700 cases in the last 24 hours, over 26,000 deaths, with over 1 million recoveries. Dr. Akhtar, would you please update us on the COVID statistics at SIUT and also how SIUT began its screening facilities for its patients, as well as for the general population?
Okay. I will answer your second question first.
Sure.
I think the COVID in Pakistan, the first patient was diagnosed on 26th of February 2020. And initially we thought that it is just an isolated case and the COVID in China is just endemic and is going to stay over there. But within a few weeks, it is spread to Pakistan as well. And by something like second week of March, it became a situation that there was no bed in the hospitals. All the public, there was no bed in the public service hospital. They didn't start the services like civil hospital and Jinnah hospital. They were not taking any COVID patient. And the private hospital like Al Khan Hospital, they became overwhelmed. And there was a situation that they closed their entry, the casualty. When this situation arose, the Professor Rizvi thought that we should stand up and we should start accepting the patient. And this is the tradition of the SIUT, I would say, that if in case of the national emergency, SIUT has always come forward and extended the services. I'm like giving the example that in earthquake in 2005, then there was earthquake in Koita, then there was earthquake in Swat, and in all these earthquakes, Dr. Rizvi himself took a team of the doctor, and they thought, if necessary, we will dialyze the patient. And same thing happens during the flood in 2010, and 10, and then another in 2015, that we sent the team of our own doctor to different places. So this time we thought, and we started our clinic or the OPD on 20th of March 2020. And within few days, within a couple of days, that the people have got a lot of confidence in the SIUT. And within a couple of days, we were overwhelmed. And the OPD, it used to run 24 hours a day and 7 days a week. And we were looking after the patient, over 150 to 200 patients each and every day. So when this thing started, we started admitting the patient as well. There was a brand new ICU, which Dr. Fakir was in charge. So we opened the ICU and then we opened the HDU. And there was a situation that we had over 150 patients of the in HDU and over 30 patients in ICU in both the buildings.
Okay.
And at that time, we were accepting the renal failure patient, but we were accepting the patient from general public as well.
Okay.
And then the SIUT, I think the Professor Anwar Naqvi, he went into the press and he said that there is need that all the public sector hospital, they should open their door for the COVID. And then the services started in civil hospital and Jinnah hospital, and then it is spread to other hospitals. Okay. After a few months, we thought that we were completely overwhelmed with a patient coming from general population. So when the services, they were open in all the other public sector hospital, that we thought that we should concentrate only in the patient with kidney disease, like renal failure, a transplant recipient, and the patient with the malignancy. And then we restricted ourselves. I mean, so far, I mean, that how many patients we have since March 2020, we have admitted over 32,000 patients that were admitted, and majority of them, they were discharged home after their treatment. At the moment, I mean, I will say that we have got a 26-bed ICU and a 40-bed HDU, and the occupancy rate is around 80 to 90% is the occupancy rate at the moment.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Thank you. And speaking of the COVID screenings and testings that are taking place on a daily basis, I'd like to include Dr. Naki Zafar at this time. Dr. Zafar, being a pathologist, could you please tell us how the SIUT labs have managed the testing facilities and their testing kits, as well as the facilities SIUT has for emergency testing? Could you please elaborate on that?
Yes, as Professor Fazal said, when we established our clinic, we started a 24-hour testing facility. And the reason for that was that there were few testing facilities at that time in March 2020. So Professor Rizvi decided that we should open our testing facility to the general public, including our own patients. So that testing facility used to run 24/7. And I can give you the figures that till now we have done over 54,000 tests
Wow.
of patients and general public. Overall positivity rate at our center has been about 16.6%. We're doing PCR testing, and I must acknowledge that the government of Pakistan came forward and has been providing us with free testing kits to date. So these tests used to take about 6 hours to process initially. But then our physicians insisted that, some of the patients who come in the emergency, many dialysis and transplant patients, and they are in such a clinical condition that often it's important to know whether they have COVID or not. So in 2021, we added a Gene Expert test, which is a quick PCR test.
Okay.
It's expensive, but it does the processing in 2 hours. So with Gene Expert, you can do the reporting in about 2 hours' time. The advantage of that is that it's more sensitive than the routine PCR test that is being done. We also tested our transplant patients. About 2,600 have been tested thus far, and the positive rate in them was about 25%. Recently, because of this emergency situation, especially now when there's a peak and so many of the patients are coming in, we have started doing a rapid antigen test. We started doing that in our emergency. Specifically for the emergency, we are going to take it forward. It's a very nice test, FDA approved, where you take a nasal swab and it detects the antigen, COVID-19 antigen, and the test takes about 15 minutes. So this is something that you can do in 15 minutes in the emergency. You do a nasal swab, and in 15 minutes you can tell the physician whether this end-stage renal patient has COVID or not. And it's a very good test. It's FDA approved, and I think it's in use in America now. In most of your drugstores, you can buy these kits and take them home with a sensitivity of 95%, specificity of almost 99%. So, but you always, of course, have to go and repeat the test. But in the night, we have initiated this because a lot of emergencies from different parts of Sindh come to SIUT. Mostly in the patient keeping urgent dialysis. So we can do this test and at least isolate them because that's a problem. Especially now we are overwhelmed, as Fazal Akhtar has said, with so many patients in this country.
And this rapid PCR test you're speaking of, that is conducted at SIUT, or is it also conducted at the other facilities that you have spread out?
Currently, the testing facility is in the main hospital.
At the main hospital.
All the satellite centers, patients are tested here. We are planning to develop this facility in our center in Sakra, and that would be the rapid antigen test that we are using here. Because we are in the process of, there's an urgent need now to vaccinate our dialysis and transplant patients. Because they are the ones who are becoming positive.
Thank you. Thank you. SIUT, as our viewers know, is Pakistan's largest, most well-respected, largest center of dialysis and transplant services. Dr. Akhtar, would you please speak about the impact of COVID on all immunocompressed patients who are already dealing with dialysis, they're dealing with transplant care, and you have cancer patients there as well. What type of numbers have you seen as far as the immunocompressed patients are concerned?
Yeah, I mean, immunocompromised patient, I mean, say the patient with the renal failure or the patient who had the kidney transplantation, they are the group of the people who are immunocompromised.
Yes.
The kidney disease itself decreases the immunity. And when the immunity is decreased, there is more chance of catching the infection. And this happened in the patient with the dialysis and in the patient with the renal transplant recipient as well. Okay. So far, I mean, I will say that we have done so far over 6,000 of renal transplant, and we have received, or we have admitted about 380 renal transplant recipients.
All right.
And in the world, what does happen? That initially it was thought that the COVID in the renal transplant recipient behaves in the same way as in the immunocompetent patient.
Okay.
But it has been observed that the mortality rate is higher in the immunocompromised patient, that include the renal transplant recipient, and in the patient with the kidney failure as well. I mean, I will say that the mortality rate in the patient with the renal failure is, in our center, is 7%. Okay. And if I compare this to Western Europe, the mortality rate in the Western Europe is approximately 35%.
Oh, okay. It's impressive.
So it's much lower. But our mortality rate compared same as to the India. The reason why our mortality rate is lower is not that we are very good, but our patients are usually in younger group and with less comorbid. They haven't got another disease like diabetes. They haven't got a disease like hypertension or heart disease. So they have got less comorbid, so their mortality rate was higher. And it was very interesting to observe that majority, 76% of the people who catch the COVID-19 infection, they had the transplant more than 5 years. Initially, we were thought that those people who are early post-transplant period, they will catch more infection because they are on the higher dose of the immunosuppressive agent. But it was not true. Those people who caught the COVID in the early transplant period, their infection was very, very mild. But those people and the transplant group, the mortality rate was higher in those people who had comorbids. Comorbids means they were diabetic, they had hypertension, and they had impaired heart function, means they had some degree of renal failure. With these things, and with the severe disease, they were the main people who became a victim of the COVID-19 infection. As far as the dialysis patient is concerned, over 700 of people with the dialysis, they caught the COVID infection. I mean, I will say that, I mean, at the moment, we have got over 4,000 people who are enrolled in our dialysis program. So, and similar to what happens in the transplant recipient, their mortality rate is higher as well, and for the same reason that they had multi-comorbid. And the other thing that they have the reason is they have got poor health as well because
Okay.
of disease, because of the dialysis, and that's
Mhm.
what we have poor health as well, and that contributed to their mortality. That's why.
Thank you very much. I just had a couple of follow-up questions. And speaking of immunocompromised patients, one of them, I just want to find out how are children being affected? The children who are renal disease patients on dialysis. What are you seeing as far as because children obviously cannot get vaccinated at this time. Nowhere in the world. We're still waiting on those studies to be completed on vaccinating children. How is SIUT dealing with the COVID care of children specifically?
Yeah, what has happened in the first wave or the second wave? The first
Yeah.
in the first wave, when it was the alpha variant. In the
Yes.
alpha variant, we hardly saw any children that is affected. I'm giving
Right.
the example that in NIC at National Institute of Child Health, they had they reserved 4 beds, and most of the time those beds were empty.
Right.
But this fourth wave with the Delta variant, it is
Yeah.
affecting the children as well. And
Yes.
fortunately, I will say that the disease in the children is usually mild.
Okay.
That
Okay.
it's not very severe. So
Yeah.
just by supplementing oxygen and sometimes giving steroid, they are improving.
Good. Good. That's good to
And
know.
so far, I will say that we haven't lost a child because of the COVID infection.
That's really good to know. Thank you. Thank you, doctor. And like you mentioned, COVID's variants are coming, or it seems like they're just changing day to day. And so the face seems to be changing on a daily basis. Several variants have surfaced since the beginning of the pandemic. Dr. Naseem, I'd like to tap into your expertise on infectious diseases and ask about the infection trend and the different COVID waves. What current COVID treatments are being utilized at SIUT? And finally, what challenges you're facing in administering those treatments?
Okay, thank you so much for inviting me.
Yes.
I am infectious disease consultant at SIUT and proud to be associated with it. Basically, what I can say is that since the beginning of this deadly pandemic, SIUT acted like a family. All the departments, including even the surgical department, they all came together and they put ourselves, that is the infectious disease department, in the front, and they asked us what to do. We had multiple meetings in the first wave, at least 2 to 3 hours duration, almost daily, and we managed to pull over this severe disease with all possible facilities we had. And SIUT, especially I would thank all our seniors, Adib Saab, Anwar Saab. They always were there during that confused period where we were not at all know what to do. Even the whole world was learning.
Yes.
We were also learning. So we opened our isolation ward very quickly, and we started taking patients from the community as well as our dialysis and transplant patients. And that was very initially there was a very stressful situation. We had to convince our nurses, our doctors to go into the ward wearing the PPEs. There were a lot of issues on PPEs regarding personal protective equipment. PPE means
Yes.
personal protective equipments like
Yeah.
gown, gloves, mask. We were struggling. The whole Pakistan was struggling to gather it. SIUT was
Yes.
in the front, and we even recruited certain tailors to
Yes. Yeah.
to make the
To make the
gowns for us.
gowns and everything. Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah.
And we provided our nurses a whole. In every meeting, Adib Saab was the first word of Adib Saab was always to protect my doctors. How are you, Asma? How are you going to protect my doctors? First, tell me. And we were so stressed that
Yes.
we had to do a lot to provide our nurses, our janitorial staff, all the equipments and the proper cleaning methods. We had to teach them the ventilator, the ventilation system had to be revamped. And since we were public sector hospital, we didn't have negative pressure rooms before, but
Right.
Dr. Fakhir must have added that we made a negative pressure room in the ICU, and we constructed well ventilated rooms. Now, regarding the treatment you have asked,
Yes.
well, initially, definitely the definite confusion regarding different treatment. We started all possible symptomatic treatment. Then hydroxychloroquine came in. We started that too. Later,
Yeah.
we disregarded it completely. And
Right.
then the SIUT was always first to acquire all the possible medications.
Okay.
And I must say that when I got infected and admitted in SIUT ward, I was the
Yeah.
first patient to get remdesivir
Okay.
from
Okay.
SIUT. Yeah,
Thankfully.
and
Thankfully. Yes. Yeah.
yeah, thank you very much, SIUT, that
Yes.
our seniors, I must thank the procurement department to
Yeah.
went far ahead and procure these very expensive drugs completely
Right.
free of cost for all the patients. So we started in June 2020. I was the first patient to receive
Okay.
remdesivir, and then we started giving remdesivir to almost all of our patients according to the guidelines. We were also me, Dr. Sunil, all the infectious disease, my colleagues, Dr. Zahir, we all sat together. Then our senior, Dr. Fazal, most importantly, and Dr. Naqi Zafar, we all sat together and we made guidelines,
Right.
protocols.
Protocols.
Then yeah, and then we procure tocilizumab and started treating our patients with very sick patients. And
Okay.
we had a yeah, definitely we had a very good experience with all these medications. And right now we have become definitely confident enough to pick all the sick patients early and send them to ICU or admit in our isolation ward. Our nurses are now fully equipped and they are well trained. We start our patients with remdesivir, steroids, and anticoagulation therapy, Clexane, enoxaparin. And then when the patient got deteriorated, God forbidden, then we started him or her on tocilizumab. These are our first line drugs which we use here.
Okay.
Challenges, if you are you asking about the challenges, yes, we are having challenges right now. Tocilizumab is very short here in Pakistan, and we are at a fix what to do, what to give to the patients, because only few vials are left now in almost every hospital of Karachi and Pakistan. So we are in a fix for procuring tocilizumab. And secondarily, we are planning to add baricitinib and other drugs in our armamentarium, so that we can move forward, because tocilizumab is short. So in short, I must say that SIUT did a very good job. We acted like a family, and then we went forward. And now we are confident enough to treat all our patients with all the possible drugs we are having. And challenges are still there, as you know, in
everywhere.
the whole world, even US.
World.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh yes, very well. Yes. Well, that sounds fascinating, and it's good to know that there's so much cohesion within all the departments at SIUT, and like you said, working as a family. And very grateful that you recovered so well from your experience with COVID as well. I know that just a couple of days ago, I read an article about another treatment that they are thinking of doing here is using a drug for rheumatoid arthritis, and in conjunction with steroids, like you said, which affects mortality rates. I'm not sure whether it affects the treatment, but it certainly decreases mortality rates. So it's good to know that different combinations are being tested throughout the world, and I hope that that you receive all the medicines that are needed. Thank you very much, Dr. Naseem. Turning to Dr. Reza now. Dr. Reza, could you please elaborate on patient management in your ICUs? What facilities are being provided to the patients, and approximately how many patients are admitted in ICU on a daily or weekly basis? Could you please elaborate on that, please?
First of all, thanks a lot, SIUT North America and you to invite me in this program. Like we started our ICUs from the day one. I think we were the first responders as far as Pakistan, or at least Karachi, is concerned, where most of the cases were coming. So we have right now we have 26 fully equipped ICU beds with ventilators, and more than 30 HDU beds where we have the facility of BiPAP. This is the non-invasive ventilation, which is available. We are right now having you can say level 3 ICU, or at least 2.5 in SIUT. We are having we are conducting research. Different research is going on. We are running a fellowship program in intensive care, the fellowship program of CPSP at SIUT, and we have got fellows, and all the hierarchies there. 24 hours consultant care cover is there. And as far as the equipment is concerned, with your North America help, we have got a lot of ventilators with us. We are fully equipped with that. The latest G5 ventilators. We have almost on all beds. We have high flow cannula, which is the latest treatment, and IPC machine, intermittent pneumatic compression machines. And the state-of-art monitoring system with central monitoring system is there. So we can just monitor all of our patients in one room, and we can actually advise treatment from the distance as well. So this is something which is not available in most part of the world, actually, rather than only Pakistan or Karachi. So I can just say that except for the lung transplant, we have everything, and definitely the ECMO. So even the ECMO is not available in most part of the world. So besides that, whatever you say, so we have been regularly proning our patients on ventilator and awake proning, and all the, as Dr. Asma has told you, that we have been having the latest medicines, whatever the world had. So we were just having that. So it's not that easy to do all that. It involves a lot of money. And the main objective that at least I learned from Adib Sahab is that, treat with dignity and free of cost. And that is not, even if you pay and you don't get the treatment with dignity, so you won't, you are not satisfied. So this is that, and we have been treating that. As far as ICU is concerned, I can tell you that now we have admitted more than 1,500 patients in our ICU, and out of the our survival rate is 66%. And you can and I can remind you that we are dealing with the most sick patients of the city. And we are the referral center for the whole city and Balochistan and interior Sindh. And we are getting all the patients who are acute kidney injury, chronic kidney injury, and then the transplant patients who have multiple problems, so multi-organ failure patients. And with all those complicated patients who are immunocompromised, if our survival rate is 66%, so we must be doing something.
Yes, of course. Yes, definitely.
Actually comparable to whole of the world, wherever you go. So we have been admitting. So in the last, you are saying, so the last wave that we are seeing, this is the fourth wave. I prayed to God that it's the last wave, but it is actually the fourth wave. So for last 3 months, our ICU had been full. You know, had to increase our facility, and we had to open 2 new ICUs and more beds of HDU. So for last months, this fourth wave is going on, and we see much more sicker patients, older patients, and they are taking a lot of longer to get better. So that wave has been actually quite depressing in this sense. But with the help of God, we have been able to at least maintain our mortality rates and our cure and our discharge from the ICUs. So at the same time, we alhamdulillah got the CPSP recognition for fellowship. We are running a fellowship program, research program, and so on. So now what we are heading towards is, the advanced levels of ICU care, and we will be trying to educate and and train more and more doctors and nurses. SIUT has a privilege that we invited in different forums. At least I represented at least 3 different forums where we trained the doctors in different ICUs how to take care of the COVID-19 severe respiratory failure patients. So this is because, in whole of the Pakistan, I think our mortality with these sick patients had been the best. So everybody knows we are the part of the registry system. So everybody knows that what is our data. So that's all I have to say.
Just a follow-up. Are you seeing in your ICUs, are people or patients waiting? Are they coming in when they first encounter symptoms, or are you encountering more patients coming in at the very last stage, or is it a combination of both of them?
So whenever I go back to my home till like 12 o'clock or late night, I am receiving calls from different people. They are at home and taking oxygen at home, and when their oxygen requirement goes beyond like 10 liters, 5 liters, then they rush to the hospital. So people are actually reluctant to get admitted. I don't know why, but they have that they won't get better in the hospital. So actually we are receiving the most sick patients. But our own patients, the dialysis patients, we are having like more than 4,000 dialysis patients if we count all of our centers. So this is a big pool that we are taking care of, and nobody was actually providing the dialysis service in the city. So the regular dialysis centers, whenever the COVID was positive, they were referring them directly to SIUT. जी वहां पर SIUT में dialysis हो जाता है. So we were taking all those patients and we were been dialyzing even as the outpatient as well as the inpatient. So for at least 10 days we were admitting those patients. So that is
Thank you very much, Dr. Reza. I'll turn now to Dr. Dadani, if I could. Dr. Dadani, it's a sobering reality that COVID and its variants are going to be with us for the near future, unfortunately. Could you please speak to all the initiatives being taken by SIUT to combat this invasive presence in everyone's lives, especially in the lives of SIUT's patients and their families?
If we look science behind variants, that why variants are being made, when we allow virus to multiply, the variants are being. So SIUT, as basically Dr. Fazal and Professor Nakiza told, we started testing from day one, actually, to be very early on. So testing, test, isolate. That was WHO slogan for 2020, test and isolate. So that if you isolate, this means you are basically curtail downing the spread of disease. Then in 2021, it changes to vaccinate, test, isolate. So SIUT also started its vaccinating services. So we are now vaccinating, testing, and isolating people. Second, to be according to international guidelines, every pre-operative patients, because 15% of patients with COVID can be asymptomatic, and we cannot take them until they are basically get tested. So we, during our pre-op evaluation, we asked them to get COVID. That's international period. Within 3 to 5 days before their procedure, they should get tested. And we usually, if test comes positive, we complete it as mandatory requirement of 10 days for isolation before basically putting them on surgery. Same, any patient with admission in hospital with suspected COVID, we have reduced the time, actually. If the patient comes to with history of fever, and if we put that patient along with other patients, it will increase the in-hospital transmission. We make sure by testing with COVID gene expert and now adding rapid antigen, so that people should have less exposure before they can spread disease, actually. So these two strategies are working excellently. Testing, and then isolate people. In addition, we are vaccinating. Second, the problems from Pakistan overall. Actually, this is one thing in which I think SIUT can contribute towards, at least Pakistan. That if we see from Pakistan, 98% are Delta variant in this wave. But the backed data for this statement is hardly 500 patients. We, as a nation, from Pakistan, we haven't done much genome sequencing to know about this is whether that. Although we have done previously, we have Alpha variant, now we have Delta variant, but this statement actually not backed by large data. And data required if we do a certain number of genomic surveillance, we do so that we can pick variant of interest early, so that we may not it converts into variant of concern and then you start picking it. So this is, we have a large department of genetics at SIUT. We have excellent micromolecular biology services available with us, in which Dr. is updated. We have done 56,000. So I think this is only one more thing in which we can help our medical fraternity by identifying variants at SIUT.
Yes, because now we also have the Lambda variant now on the horizon, unfortunately. So that would help definitely.
So basically these will coming up. So if we have an excellent genomic surveillance mechanism in Pakistan, so we can pick early. So we can pick early, we can identify the hotspots. That's what government is doing, identifying the hotspots from where the positivity is increasing, and they enforce smart lockdowns there. So in genomic surveillances, actually, that's where if we pick something, we can alert WHO, we can alert the world, and then we can help contribute our part by just identifying not just the Delta variant is going on, because the management do not changes. Now the new papers are coming up that Delta variant is more sicker patients. That's what Dr. Fakir said. In this way, we see there is lots of morbidity to patients. Patients are on high flow oxygen for months. And basically, we are just continuing with our oxygenation. This means there is something in Delta variant which is causing these, because we haven't seen in last 3 waves. So identifying variants and isolating them may help basically to further spread of these variants.
Thank you, Dr. Dudani, and I wish you all the best in getting early detection systems in place. And you spoke about the testing, and we've spoken about patient management. Let's come to vaccinations. So the vaccination process part of the management. So thankfully, the global population has been provided vaccines to fight COVID. Dr. Zafar, I'd like to know more about SIUT's vaccination process, please, and how many have been administered and which vaccines presently are being used by SIUT.
Okay, thank you. First of all, I'd like to inform Sunil Dodani that by the next 10 days, our molecular lab will be identifying the Delta virus for you. So that's in process. So I'm keeping this knowledge to myself, but since you said that, I'm letting you know. We are starting testing.
Well,
for
it's
Delta.
out in the open now.
It's out in the open.
Yes.
Okay. The vaccination process in Pakistan started in February 2021.
Okay.
And the government got Chinese vaccines. So we started, they were the NCOC, the National Command and Control Center, first identified that the frontline workers should be vaccinated. So we had this Chinese vaccine called Sinopharm. It's a 2-dose vaccine, which is an inactivated virus vaccine. So we, SIUT then asked the government that we want to be a center, we want to vaccinate our patients and our staff, but we were requested if we could become a center for general public also. Okay. So to help our patient and staff and their families, we said yes. And till today, we have vaccinated more than 53,000 individuals in our vaccination center. We have used vaccines as they've become available to us because the government is providing them. And there is a system of registration, which we have. Then we were given another inactivated virus vaccine called Sinovac. These two vaccines, what the report literature says, is about 70 to 80% efficacy. Not as much as Pfizer. Then Pfizer became available in Pakistan, and the NCOC said it can only be given to immunocompromised patients, dialysis patients, transplant patients. So we requested this Pfizer vaccine for transplant patients, and we have vaccinated over 1,000 of our transplant patients. Okay. We are in the process now. In the last 1 week, we have vaccinated over 1,000 dialysis patients in the main center here at SIUT. And now we're going to start vaccination of dialysis patients at other centers. We are going to get Pfizer now because the government is thinking, because so many people after vaccination are becoming positive. So the concept of a booster dose has started in Pakistan, especially for people who are traveling, get Pfizer vaccine. But we will also be getting Pfizer vaccine because the government has imported, I think, about 3 million or 5 million doses, which will be available very soon. Of course, Pfizer vaccine has a higher efficacy than these Chinese vaccines. We have conducted a study on Sinopharm in our own hospital frontline workers and hospital staff, which covers the whole range from young to about over 60. And our efficacy of this vaccine, we are now in the 6th month of testing for specific spike protein in these patients. We are going to publish this work. We have shared our data with the National Command and Control Center. So the efficacy rate for our testing of antibody post-vaccination is pretty good at 3 months, almost 85%.
Oh, wonderful.
We had our own staff get COVID after vaccination, but most of them have been milder cases.
Systems.
We continue to vaccinate our patients with whatever vaccine is available to us. Luckily, we have Pfizer now, and the most important thing for us was to vaccinate our dialysis and transplant patients, because they come to their SIUT, they go back into the community. They are more susceptible. So We have been successfully vaccinating our dialysis patients.
All right.
Thank you and that's a big effort on the part of every department
Yes.
to vaccinate. And now we are going to go to our dialysis centers and other cities to vaccinate our patients. So, but thank you again for the government of Pakistan for providing these free vaccines to us. And now, by next week, we'll be getting vaccine for our frontline workers and our hospital staff. So
Wonderful.
we'll be done with the Pfizer vaccine.
That's wonderful.
So not booster dose, but 2 doses.
Okay. and that's actually, it brings me to just a follow-up for Dr. Naseem, if she's available. I just wanted to find out from her, because I know in the United States, as you must have read in news and seen, that there is a section of the population that is completely averse to getting vaccinated. Are steps being taken in SIUT to combat this resistance to being vaccinated?
Yeah, definitely. Here too,
Yeah.
many of us Pakistanis, they
Yes.
are not very willing to get vaccinated because of, thanks to WhatsApp groups and Facebooks and all the fake news
try
going
this
around.
try this recipe and try that recipe and you'll be better, right?
Yeah, definitely. Same here, 100% same here. Americans and Pakistanis, 100% same.
Right.
So yes, first of all, what we did, we try to cajole, we can say, our healthcare workers.
Right.
Number one, the priority of SIUT was to vaccinate all our employees. And initially the response was good, but slowly and gradually they started shying away from vaccination with one excuse to another, and we had to continuously counsel them, tell them. In my office, there was a continuous line of doctors and nurses coming to me and my colleague Sunil and asking questions about vaccines, what to do, ye ho jata hai, wo ho jata hai, many weird questions and weird thinkings. Then at the end, that is, I think 2 or 3 months back, Anwar Saab put a foot on his, with a strong hand. He announced that, okay, now enough is enough. We have counseled our employees a lot. Now it's time to put a iron hand on them.
Sure.
And so we then like I think this August we try to hold the salaries. So with this around I think 95% of our employees get vaccinated now.
Got vaccinated,
and few of them are still there. Few of them are still there with the same thinking of vaccine aisi ho jati hai, and you know Islam mein mana hai वगैरह वगैरह. But we are still trying to convince them. And second population are pregnant and lactating mothers, and they are also very much reluctant to get vaccinated, and we are continuously counseling them and pushing them to go and get vaccinated. So this is the way we went forward, and I think same as that of US. Same problems. People are scared. It's very new vaccine, and they don't want to get vaccinated. However, what we are seeing right now in our isolation ward, that only 2 to 3% of the patients get admitted who have vaccinated. Otherwise, all of our patients are unvaccinated who get severe or moderate or severe disease, and it's a very encouraging thing to see. Even
Yeah.
with Chinese vaccines, we are seeing good response of prevention to
Okay.
severe disease.
Wonderful. Okay. And just following up on what Dr. Zafar was mentioning earlier. So SIUT is going to have a policy of administering booster shots in the future?
Yes.
Well, right now, sir, yeah, sir.
Go ahead.
Dr. Nakil Zafar must
The
have some answer.
NCOC has allowed booster doses.
Okay.
But now the question is whether you get a single booster dose or you get both the doses.
Okay.
I think
great.
there are now publications that you can have a second vaccine after the first. So
Yes.
I was just talking to the head of NCOC, and probably they will allow a second dose for those
Okay.
older population, immunocompromised, we can give booster doses.
All right.
Of a different vaccine.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you very much. Speaking of the different services for COVID patients since the pandemic began, and through the generosity shown by our donor base, SIUT North America was able to provide grants in excess of $950,000 to SIUT, specifically for COVID services such as ventilators, transplant flow monitoring systems for COVID-19 patients, as well as medical devices and supplies sent by APNA, the Association of Physicians of Pakistani Descent of North America. Dr. Reza, would you please speak about the effects of these grants, their utilization, and what, in your opinion, is the future help from the North American diaspora needed by SIUT?
Definitely, this had been very, very helpful for us. You know, there were times when we were short of the N95 masks, the PPEs and all that. And very regularly we had been receiving the grants in cash as well as in kind, actually. And the quality of material that we had been having were marvelous. Now we are actually not short of any equipments or the regular disposables. For example, the masks, the gowns, the caps, and you know, all the PPEs, and even for the patients, we are having the sanitary sheets and all these things. And as far as the grants are concerned, definitely the medicines, you know, the cost of medicines that we are providing each month is in millions. So it was not possible without this grant that we can buy. You know, this is the luxury that the people are getting. For example, if you just see, if you ask any private hospital that if they admit a patient in the ICU, how much they ask, okay? They will ask first deposit 1 million rupees, and then you can get admitted in the hospital. So you can imagine we treated like more than 1,500 patients only in the ICU. So what the cost, you know? So the cost is actually huge. As far as the medicines, the disposables, and all these things are concerned. So what we actually need is definitely in terms of cash and kind, and definitely we would we don't only need the horse and the sword, but we also need the soldiers. So whenever the people visit Pakistan from different departments, they can join hands with us. They can just share their experiences with us, and we can definitely share our experience in the resource-starved countries like Pakistan. Said that, you know, how this generosity can can bring miracles in the lives of poor people. You know, the people, they can't. The people, you know, when they go to the private hospital and they said, you know, deposit 1 million, they just go home. They don't go anywhere. And then when they approach SIUT, they get the hope. So you can imagine, like, it had been I don't know how many millions, maybe more than 150 million rupees that already been spent on this COVID drugs and all these facilities. So definitely this is what we would be asking for.
Okay, well, thank you very much. And last but not least, certainly not the least, but so COVID has wreaked havoc with not only physical lives of the global populace, but anxiety and stress levels have also certainly been negatively affected for everyone, whether the patients or frontline health workers. So how do we continue living with COVID being such a constant presence in our lives? What are its long-term effects? And when will we return to quote unquote normal life? To help answer these concerns, I'd like to gain Dr. Charanya's experienced insights and vast advice. Dr. Charanya, could you please enlighten us?
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. And it's a great participation in the discussion with all these, mashallah, very well qualified and experienced people. I knew Dr. Rizvi and Naqvi and Dr. Naqvi Zafar. I met, I think, 2-3 times, and I carry great respect for these people and all of you because you are doing a great job. Basically, I think, as we know,
Zoom out karna.
Knowing that you are doing this great job with whatever help we can, produce from here and give and send there, it gives us a great happiness, I must say. And I must say that you took the bull by the horn right in the first place and became the leader in treating the COVID patients, which gives us a great satisfaction. Coming to the subject, that most COVID, novel coronavirus was new to us, all of us, as its name suggests. And it was almost like, I think, as Dr. Asma said earlier, if you're trying to fly the aeroplane and at the same time trying to build it as well. And we kept on doing it. And mashallah, you've done very well in doing so. As we learned more about it, your response got better, and well, it's things got better as well. But I believe that very simplistically thinking, the future will depend on 2 things: human behavior and the virus behavior. Virus behavior, we already know that it will keep on mutating, it will keep on producing new variants, and we'll have to sort of deal with it. And I see Dr. Rizvi has joined in. Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Rizvi.
Alaikum, Dr. Rizvi.
On another side is the human behavior. Human behavior is, unfortunately, I would put it, that I would say we have met the enemy and he is us, kind of, we are the enemy. In the sense that we have become, I don't know how, but we are hesitant for many things and deniers of the vaccine and anti-masking and political, polarization and economic considerations, and et cetera, et cetera. The democracy's freedom and personal right taken too far, and that's caused all these things. And I'll just, in between, I'll just say 1 in about 550 Americans have died. And that's a lot, 6 million out of almost 330 million. What I see now is that from all the Bloomberg and the John Hopkins website, that we'll need about 70 to 85% of the people vaccinated all over the globe to make sure that we get over and really go further in our lives to be normal. Present vaccination doses are about, coming back to the 5.35 billion doses have been administered, which could have administered 1/3 of the population of the globe if it was equitable distribution. But unfortunately, it was not. Like Europe, UAE, China, Maldives, Israel, Chile, etc., are more than 70% vaccinated. Whereas many countries, poor countries, are only 2% to 5% vaccinated, which is the problem. Present vaccination rate is about 41.4 million doses every day. And at this rate, it will take about 5 to 6 months to vaccinate the whole globe, provided a big proviso, and that is, if we can get the doses manufactured enough, and we have equitable distribution of all these doses into everywhere, all the countries of the world. Well, things are happening, no doubt. WHO is working with COVAX, CEPI, Gavi, UNICEF, etc. And hopefully the funding will happen and the manufacturing capacities are increasing. So that will happen as well. I'll give you one example of the USA. And the USA is, and everywhere else, of course, children are not yet eligible to be vaccinated under 12. And that will mean about almost 20% of the population is presently not being vaccinated at all. So it's out of the 80% that whatever we can achieve. FDA has asked manufacturers to double the number of children in this study recently. And it has also asked the side effects to continue to be seen and checked for 6 months. That will mean this particular group 5 to 11, that they are 11 to 5, that they are trying to get the emergency authorization, hopefully, that will be probably spill over in early 2022. So in all different accounts, we can see that it will be easily winter of 2022 or even coming to summer, spring and summer, that we'll probably have everyone vaccinated. So that's probably the timeline that I can think of. Although masking, distancing, and the vaccine could have been almost 100% effective, unfortunately, we have not been able to utilize all these good things that we could have had and we could have used, unfortunately. And we are at this stage where we have got millions of people infected and dying. So that's where we are at the moment. I think I'll also give the example of Australia and New Zealand, the way they, and China in the beginning. They constructed the hospital in a few days and closed the whole province and the Wuhan and everything. And they were able to open everything within about 4 or 5 months and back to normal, which we could not do and we have not been able to do, at least in USA. And I don't know about Pakistan, how it will happen. But I think you people are doing very well, mashallah. And kudos to you. Thank you.
So the point is that we all must be very, very patient still.
Very patient. And aside from that, I think probably we'll turn from pandemic to endemic, hopefully, as we are getting more and more people are getting vaccinated and you've got more antibodies, either vaccine antibodies or convalescent antibodies. And we'll be back to, I suppose, hopefully normal, well, sometime next year, hopefully.
Inshallah. Thank you so much for joining us, Dr. Rizvi. It's a pleasure to see you looking well. And we would love to hear your remarks as well, please.
I think there is no place left for remark. The things have been so well defined that instead of giving any remark, I would like to listen the remarks from you people, please.
Well, no, I think it's been certainly been quite an informative discussion on the present day COVID and its management at SIUT, which is heartening to hear from all the experts that there's so much cohesion within the departments, and all of you are doing wonderful, excellent work. Frontline health workers are always held in high esteem everywhere, but certainly for an institution like SIUT and the work that you're providing for the general population, it's really commendable. And I know it's dangerous work, and I know that all of you have also lost some colleagues to COVID. So really hats off to all of you. I'd like to thank each and every one of our panel experts again for providing their time and experience. I'm certain our viewers will be very appreciative of all the valuable information discussed here today. If anyone has any remarks or comments, please.
Just one remark. That yes. We are very lucky and very unique, because everywhere else it is the order which is passed down to the lowest of the ladder. But in our institute, the most of the work is carried out by the seniors that are sitting here. They
Yes.
carry out the work. That has made all the difference.
Yes. Yes.
So, for example, Dr. is sitting here. He has been in the front line. And so Dr. Nakizafar is there.
Yes.
Dr.
Fazal.
And everybody's. So our frontline workers are the senior most people.
Yes.
So it is an army where the generals are commanding the whole thing. So
Right.
that actually all the credit goes to seniors who have been
Yes.
leading them.
And leading quite well, I must add.
Thank you,
Very
sir.
nice.
Thank you.
Thank
sir.
you. Thank you. Please stay safe, be well. Thank you very much, everyone again for joining us. Really appreciate your time and your expertise. It was a pleasure to speak to all of you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Khuda Hafiz.
So much.